Get Sweaty with Leddy, a wellness program about pain management. Today we've got a good friend of mine who happens to be the twin brother of one of my best buds, Dave. I present to you modern day Renaissance man, Karl Dettman. On any given day, he might be navigating boardrooms, getting lost down a rabbit hole at Burning Man, or growing healthy food on his farm. He started his career in the tech space, and after a few successful exits, transitioned to wealth management for the last 15 years. Although Karl's business achievements are impressive, his commitment to fostering and maintaining community is what makes Karl truly unique and someone to learn from. So what do you say? We hop on the bench and see what Karl's all about. Mr. Karl Dettman, we are in the sauna. And I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah, me too.
We're down in Austin, Texas, and I mentioned earlier that I wanted to come down here really to interview some guests that I met at a music and wellness festival, and this is the guy that's responsible for said music and wellness festival. And we're going to talk about a unique story of pain, but I'm really excited to talk about what really makes you heal and allow others heal. And that's just this incredible sense of community that you've created and continue to build, not just in the Madison area where you reside, but the Austin, Texas area, and then how that connects to the Minneapolis area. So it's pretty incredible to, one, witness the magic, but then also to be a part of it. So Karl, what does pain mean to you in this sense that puts you to a point where, you know, community is paramount in your life?
Yeah. I feel like this is going to be a winding road.
I like winding
conversation.
roads.
So, yeah, because community is really important to me. And it's interesting when you look at community in general, it's like, I feel like it's a bit of a lost art in this world. And as much as we all know in theory, it's like, you're supposed to be a part of a community. Or people might consider themselves that they are a part of a community, and it's like, and we'll talk maybe a little bit later on what my viewpoint of or definition of community is. In short, it's people you do life with, not just people you know. But as far as it goes with like pain and what does pain mean in terms of that's a question, right? What does pain mean in terms of community, or
I guess, how about this? Like, maybe the first time of your life, like, when was pain introduced to you? Was it a bonk on the head? Was it a cut? Was it a broken limb? Was it losing somebody? Was it the realization that, you know, I'm not going to be a Olympic swimmer?
No. And I mean, when we hang out, we've had lots of conversations. I know that we get an invitation to go deep, so I'm gonna just cut right to it and get deep. So pain for me, I think you look at this, it's like there's pain you know that's painful, and then there's pain you don't even know because maybe you're too young. Yeah. Right? And when I look back on my life and I look at like where pain first started in my life, it was actually my relationship with my mom. And I'm in
parental pain.
Yes, yeah. And you look at this and it's like, you know, what I want to say is like my mom has a heart of gold. And we have a really great relationship as it sits today. And it's interesting. I'm an identical twin. So I have literally another person that walks around this planet that looks like me, talks like me in ways that, for anybody that knows Dave, we are just as different as we are the same. And it was interesting because my mom got along with my brother. And my mom and I, it was like, we call it death zone. And so when you look at this, when you have someone who's literally your exact same DNA, that looks like you, talks like you know, like literally you're trying to be your own individual, and everybody doesn't even call you by Karl and Dave, they just call you the Dettman twins. And for whatever reason, my mom and I literally feel like I was brought to this earth to challenge my mom, and vice versa. And, you know, like in any adversity you overcome, and I'm sure as you interview all of the different people, you talk about these pain pieces, that also becomes where your greatest gifts lie. Right? Next to your greatest pain usually is where your greatest gift is. That's what people dedicate their life to. So if you know you had health issues growing up, then guess what? Surprise, surprise, you become a health person, you know? It's like if you had some mental stuff, like surprise, surprise, you become a psychologist, you know? And so as far as it goes with me and like my mom, it was rough growing up. And My definition of, let's say, even though good and bad is relative, but let's say a good parent versus a bad parent, if that really is even a thing, is, did you do any better than your parents did for you? Like even one iota. So sometimes people look at this and they go, well, I had a good parent, I had a bad parent, whatever that means. To me, I look at this, I'm like, well, do you really know where your parents came from and what their experience was growing up? And so my mom did remarkably better than what she experienced growing up. And it still was tough between us. And so literally when you look at the proverbial crap rolling downhill, because that's really when we look at like from a parenting side of things, for me, it's one of the things I try. I'm a father and I have a 3-year-old daughter named Willow. I try my best to not let the crap roll downhill. If I have a hard day, that it's not rolling down to Willow. And I feel like that's hopefully for anybody who's listening to this podcast, I mean, that's something that hopefully they've thought about, is that it's like, look, it doesn't matter whether it's your child, it doesn't matter whether it's your partner. It's just like, just don't let the crap roll downhill. If you had a crappy day, don't let it fall onto other people.
Yep.
My mom didn't have that gift. And so when you look at, and if you look at someone like my mom, it's interesting because I mean, I can tell you for many years, I was prayed that I would never have to talk to that woman ever again.
Dang.
Never. And what's interesting is if we ever look at people that really bug us, there's a term, if you spot it, you got it. The reason my mom bugged me so much is because we have so much in common. So when I talk about my brother and I being half exactly the same, half different, that half different was exactly where my brother was more like my dad and I was more like my mom. And so when you look at this, if you have two opposing forces, and that's what I can tell you, my mom's really powerful. I am really powerful. So you just had this clash. And so instead of, and obviously I'm supposed to be this, she gave birth and she's got this, I have an older sister. They get along decently well. I got this brother. They get along decently well. Doesn't mean that there wasn't hard pieces there.
Yep.
But literally it was like, I literally feel like, and hopefully, other people just may resonate. It's like some children are brought here to test their parents. And that was my role with my mom, was to test her. As a little kid, though, you don't know this. You're just wondering, why is someone else getting treated nice? Well, I'm feeling like I'm, Harry Potter, like effectively Harry Potter and whatever the house that he's in, like the normie house, where effectively Weasley, or what is it? Not Weasley. I don't know. Wesley.
I'm admittedly not.
Dursley, yes.
Thanks, Isha.
So it's like I was Harry Potter at the Dudley's house is how I felt as a kid growing up. Now, and I can tell you, my parents love me, and I have a good relationship, but it was definitely a winding road. And to trace this a little bit to community, when Mother's Day rolls around, I usually send out 3 or 4 Mother's Day cards, not one. And when they talk about, a child being raised by a village, for me, thankfully, the universe provided. And so whether this was my Aunt Mary or my friend Beth Prohaska or Francine Ernst, they were able to fill in some of the gaps where my mom and I clashed. And so I was able to feel loved and I was able to feel cared for. But still as a child, it's really confusing. So you talk about pain, it was painful. It was really painful. And when I look at a lot of my road in life, and a lot of my greatness, I actually attribute it to my mom as well. So it's not like in spite. It's because of my mom that most of my success, most of my vibrancy, most of my fun has come to life. Doesn't mean though it wasn't really painful as a kid growing up. Really confusing.
Was there an age or a time frame when you started to realize the similarities between you and your mom that made it easier potentially?
After, Celius, I kind of when I was a kid, I went to a psychologist and a therapist, and as a young adult, so in my mid-20s, so kind of like, I got support and help as a child, and then you go to college, and then after college, I had a breakup, and then I was like, I'm sad, and I'm really tired of feeling sad, so I'm going to go, because I had my childhood therapist, I'm going to go back to my childhood therapist, and I'm sitting in the waiting room, and it's like a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, I'm like a 23-year-old.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is kind of funny. And the only reason he chose to meet with me, because he's a kid therapist, is because he's like, I know your whole life story, right? And one of the things as a young 20-year-old, he said to me, he's like, because I said to him, like, I'm here, I'm like really tired of feeling sad, I just want to get out of this, can you help me? And he said to me, he's like, one of the things he shared is like, that as a kid therapist, he's like, pretty much all I do is give kids coping mechanisms so they can get through their childhood.
Whoa.
That's it. He's like, that's it. It's just how can you cope? And he goes, and then in your 20s, he's like, now we can start to like dig in and actually heal. And so he's like, when you're a little kid, you're not really healing. You're just figuring out how to survive. He's like, that's what I'm doing. And so for me, it really wasn't until my 20s. And there was actually a pretty profound moment that was like, oftentimes the distance between our hurting and our healing is our ego.
I can totally understand that.
And for so long, because you gotta understand, my relationship with my mom was tortured. It was a death zone. Like, there was literally a period in life where anytime I was argumentative, now it's ironic knowing things about masculine, feminine dynamic and all this other type of stuff, my mom is more masculine energy. My dad and my brother are more feminine energy. So that meant harmony. I'm masculine. So when I was a little kid and I was putting my masculine energy, she didn't like that. And so at the end of the day, I learned that if I wanted love from a woman, I needed to be feminine. And so I'm sitting here and I'm argumentative. And when I was argumentative with her or I was resisting, she would be like, that's your ADD talking, take your meds. Oh, that's your ADD talking, take your meds. And literally I'm sitting with my dad and my therapist at one point in time. I'm like, I'm probably 12 or 13 years old. And I'm like, these meds make me feel funny. I'm like, I don't like it. They make me feel funny. And literally, and the therapist says, and my dad says, they're like, just tell your mom you take the meds and just flush them down the toilet. That's confusing, right? You don't know it at the time, but that's confusing. And so for me, I look at this, I'm like, with my mom, and this is something I think that if anybody has a relationship with someone that is really tough, and then they have friends in other places, like a lot of people like my mom. A lot of people like my mom. And it drove me nuts. Because I'm like, they don't know the real truth. They don't know the real truth of how mean this woman is. And I had this really, like I said, the distance between pain and healing is your ego. I had this really tough moment where I was like, well, if I'm here to heal, I get to get over myself. And so literally I looked at this and I'm like, okay, I had a really hard experience with mom growing up. But 99.9% of the world had a really wonderful experience with my mom growing up. Like literally, she's one of the most loving, kind, wonderful people. Between her and I, not great. So I looked at this and I said, I'd ask myself, is the truth that she's really this wicked, horrible person? Or is the truth that it was just really challenging between the two of us? And that because I look at this, if 99.9% of the world experiences her as this wonderful human being, and 0.1% experiences her as being a witch, which is more true? And so for me, it's because my experience was really tough, I was projecting my experience on everybody else, being like, she's pulling the wool over your eyes. You don't know the real truth.
Right.
Which if you ever had someone that's ever come up to you and been like, you don't know the real truth. You look at this text message, this person, look at this, whatever else, and sitting here being like, yeah, but my experience with this person is that they're really kind. So is almost everybody else's. It's just like, look, maybe A plus B equaled dysfunction. In this case, Karl and mom living in the same house was just tough. And as I said, now we look at this as an adult. I got to roll up my sleeves, and as an adult, and this is a little tidbit that was helpful for me, is I had this epiphany maybe 15 years ago. I was like, did my mom and dad give birth to me to be smarter or dumber than them? Right? And I think it's really interesting because you look at this, how many people do I know in their 40s, 50s, 60s that they're still looking at their parents as being the authority figure? And I'm like, literally, my parents gave birth to me. If you ask any parent, did you give birth to me to be smarter or dumber? They're going to say, of course, smarter. Wiser or less wise? Of course, wiser. I mean, your parents, your starting point should be where they're effectively their ending point is.
Yeah, their baseline almost, right?
And if we look at this, and there's actually, I don't know what the scientific studies are on this, but based on my knowledge, is the less traumatic childhood you have, the younger your wisdom will start to eclipse your parents. And this doesn't mean wisdom on finances. This doesn't mean wisdom on how to run a business. This means wisdom on how to be a good human, how to be kind, how to be loving, how to be inclusive. And literally, if you had a super traumatic childhood growing up, you likely will eclipse the wisdom of your parents when you're mid to late 20s. If lower trauma is late teens, and if you had a relatively, if the shit didn't roll downhill and it didn't come down to you, it's 10. 8, where you start. If you look at this, if you're a parent out there, and you might look at this and be like, my kid's saying some really profound things, and they're 10 years old. That might be an indication of, hey, you're providing a relatively trauma-free experience for them, because then they get to start thinking about things. And so for me, I'm like, my mom gave birth to me to be smarter and wiser than her. So instead of me waiting for her to be the one to extend an olive branch, instead of waiting for her to be the one to apologize, instead of being the one waiting for her to make a shift, I'm like, I mean, if it is to be, it is unto me. So I'm going to be the one to set the boundaries. I'm going to be the one to be loving and kind, to pave the way for there to be a better life. And in like remodeling a house, you know, if a house is built, let's say every relationship is a house. You and I have known each other for a while. We have a house. We know what to expect from each other.
Yeah.
But every once in a while you look at a house and you're like, there needs to be some remodeling. Especially with our parental relationships. When you remodel a house, it gets messier before it gets cleaner. So at the end of the day, it got messier. You know, we were looking at things were kind of okay. We tolerated each other, but it was like, you know, I want things to look different moving forward. And because I've now anointed myself as the wise one between the two of us, I'm going to lead the way, and I'm not going to wait for my mom, because like she doesn't have the tools and resources. And you know, and it's one of those things, she hated it. She hated the boundaries I set for the first couple of years. And now she thanks me.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And we look at this and it's like we have this, and I look at this, I'm so thankful. I remember my Aunt Mary, who was one of those people in community that like she held me. She created a home that I felt safe. And the thing, my mom knows this. Like my mom knows my aunt. She's so thankful for my Aunt Mary for being there in the moments that were tough, that like she necessarily wasn't able to be there. And my Aunt Mary, because I said to my Aunt Mary, I'm like, I don't want to talk to her anymore. My mom, I don't want to talk to my mom anymore. I don't want her to be any part of my life. I'm just so frustrated. And my Aunt Mary said to me, she goes, you only get one mom. It doesn't matter how hard you try. Doesn't matter what happens. There's only one. And whether you like it or not, she's like, I would highly encourage you to figure out a way. And you know, that always stuck with me. And then, you know, it didn't happen overnight. But as I said, now I sit here and it's like I have a 3-year-old, and my mom, it's like we were at Disney a couple weeks ago and got to spend time with my mom. And, cool. and like in during the summers when she's been in Madison, like it's a joy to get her to have it be a part of Willow's life. And I'm really thankful for that.
Was your Aunt Mary, is that your mom's sister?
It's my brother's, it's my brother. It's my dad's brother's wife. So like literally not a part of like she was married into the family type thing, but we had some cousins that our family has lots of twins in them, and so my cousins that were twins are pretty much our same age, that we played almost every single day. Aunt Mary was their mom. Okay. Yeah, indeed. So
nice.
Yeah.
Shout out to Aunt Mary.
Shout out to Aunt Mary. Thank you, Aunt Mary, and thank you, my mom, and thank you, Beth, and thank you, Francine.
I love it. Well, I think this is a perfect time for me to throw some more logs on this fire.
Perfect.
Get this thing churning and burning so that we're nice and puddly.
Let's do it.
All right.
I'm here
we'll
for
return
it.
in a second. We are back. The logs are cooking. Karl is admiring this wonderful blue flame Kuma stove. Shout out to Kuma.
It's cool.
Yeah, not only is it just a beautiful machine, but I love that it's blue. I'm a big blue guy. If you didn't know that, I kind of wear blue all the time. Mm-hmm. Blue is also, you know, the hottest part of a flame. So
look at you go.
The blue flame.
Yeah.
Let's get back to your story of progressing through, you know, your childhood, trying to navigate not necessarily a combative relationship with your mom, but a relationship between two powerful individuals.
Yeah, I think where we left off was just kind of, I think the place to pick up is around this piece of, for so long, you know, I thought that my mom was pulling the wool over people's eyes, when really reality is I just had a tough relationship with her. And that distance between pain and healing is literally just yourself.
Yeah.
And getting over yourself. And we look at this in you know, like when we look at pain, like pain not only can live in our head, it also can be stored in our body. Yep. And so it's like this progression where, for me, I looked at this and I feel like it's interesting. Ever since I was a little kid, I had these, you know, those little voices, aka our internal knowing, you know, our intuition, if you will. And for me, it was like this thing when I faced resistance or I faced pain, for whatever reason, at a young age, I just, in my head, that meant something's not right. And not something's not right, but it was like, this something's not right, and what can you do to shift that? What can you do to make that be the case?
It's very important to be able to understand that pain is information. It's not, it's nothing but useful information that you can take and improve yourself.
Yeah, and I feel like when you look at, sometimes our identities can be so stuck in the pain, and if you look at this, if your identity is stuck in the pain, you're literally, I asked someone, it's like, do you want to be in pain? And the answer is going to be, no, I don't want to be in pain. It's like, then why is that your identity?
I am exploring this right now. Being stuck in an identity that you can't evolve from is an incredible form of pain.
It is. But you also look at this, it's interesting because it's like, well, why do we do that? It's safety. It also is connection, because guess what? If I'm in pain and you're in pain, we have similar pain, then we can connect on that. And that becomes a connection point. And we look at this world and the world we live in, our bodies are made to survive. Our body, and pain is information, and pain is feedback. If something's not working, hey, we got to do something a little bit different. But in the last 100 years, we've moved from a world where for all of human history, we were just here to survive. So you think about this, 100 years ago during the Great Depression, people still starved. Doctors didn't have jobs. There wasn't enough food to go around in the United States. Literally, the United States had to import food. In 1920s, it was like 80% of the United States population was involved in agriculture, and it only produced like 95% of the food that the United States needed at that time. So people are still starving.
Crazy.
And we look at this, we live in a world now where less than 5% is in agriculture, and we literally pay farmers not to plant crops. I get paid money to not plant crops on my farm, because at the end of the day, if I did, because we're so efficient now, it would drive the price of corn down so low that it makes the whole industry implode. I mean, you look at even ethanol and that type of stuff, it's this interesting thing. The point being is that we literally have gotten ourselves to be in a world of abundance, extreme abundance, even though the news may not let us feel that way. But our nervous systems aren't wired for that. So if you think about this, if for all of human history, I mean, we look at this, and this is some stuff that may turn some viewers off, but it was like, in the 1950s, you were considered to be a good husband if you only beat your wife every once in a while.
Oh, man.
I mean, if you think about it, truly, just stop and think about it, because it seems so absurd now. So absurd.
Yeah.
But in the 1950s, one of those things, the dad would have a belt, kids might get a beating often, and it was like this thing would be like, my husband's a good husband because I only get a beating every once in a while. And that was normal. And that was less than 100 years ago.
Crazy.
I mean, and so you think about this, like it just seems, so we look at the world we've come from and so you think about this, it's one generation, 2 generations away from beating people is normal, raping and pillaging is normal, maybe 3 or 4 generations away. That's a lot of trauma that's stored in the body. That's a lot of trauma, and I can tell you, if you're on your healing journey and you heal, I'm gonna heal some trauma I had when I was a kid growing up. Cool, like you effectively got ostracized at school, you got bullied at school, and you're able to heal that, and eventually you feel so much better. Well, just wait, because if you work on it enough, eventually you're gonna start healing some of your intergenerational trauma, and that's confusing. Confusing, because you're like, this feels foreign to me. I don't know where this came from. Well, guess what? It came from your ancestors.
Yeah.
There was some things that happened in life, because guess what? 100 years ago, I fully believe that my ancestors were shivering, because they were in Wisconsin. I think 100 years ago, my great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather was sitting there shivering because it was negative 10 degrees outside, and his bed mat was made out of straw, because that's all mattresses were made out of at that time. And he dreamed of a day where his offspring didn't have to worry about these things. Think about it. I mean, if you look at this, at some point in our human history, if we really think back about what was seeing through the eyes of our ancestors, there had to have been so many nights that they were looking at us and just being like, I don't know where my food's coming from, it's cold, and I just dream of a better day. We're there. We literally are actualizing that dream. I bet you we are beyond what my ancestors could have even dreamed possible, but the trauma and the survival aspect still lives inside of us. And so
it's in our tissue.
It's in our tissue.
When it's passed along, it's pain just isn't created and born with the individual.
Yeah.
It is passed on.
And so really, as we have to understand, our wiring is to hold on to this pain, because we've harbored it for so long. So if I actually want to get to the point of, instead of being in survival mode, I want to thrive, it's way easier to survive than it is to thrive. Way easier. Default mode is survive. Our DNA is made to survive. But as we sit here, most people are like, I'm going to thrive. And guess what? To thrive means it's messy. The road to getting out of pain and all that type of stuff, and that's why I would say, if someone sits here and a part of their identity, like when I meet someone new, I love asking them good questions. And obviously one of your pieces is, because this is what we're trying to heal the world. But to me, I'll ask open-ended questions like, what's something you're learning about yourself? What's something that brings you joy? And it's so interesting. I'll say, what's something that brings you joy? And someone tells me a story about pain. Or like you meet someone new, and like for me, I'm single. And so I'll go on a date every once in a while, and I just get really curious. And someone just tells me about all of the traumas in their life. And I'm like, in my head, and bear in mind, if I feel like the person can receive some of the feedback, I'll say, you could have told me any story you wanted about your life, and literally you just told me about all the pain. I asked you questions about what brings you joy, what are you learning about yourself, all this other stuff. And I'm like, you literally just share with me about how things in your life suck. And I'm just like, it's interesting because you could have presented yourself in any way you wanted to.
Yeah.
And this is what you chose because our identity is wrapped in it. And it's the piece I'm not saying that you did anything wrong. I'm saying it's amazing to see how much, so I look at this and say, the question to someone is, do you want to be in pain? Because it's like, if I continue to talk about it, if my identity is wrapped in it, then should I be really surprised that it continues to show up? And for me, I look at this and and the reason I say this stuff and I'm saying it out loud is because the first person I'm saying it to is myself. Because I still have these pieces. I guarantee you for the rest of my life, I will be peeling back the layers. And at this point in time, I always say like what I'm working on is nuanced. So when you start on the healing journey, you're gonna have revelations. You have these big revelations, whether it's through a coach, through a journey, through an experience, through a training. And at some point in time, hopefully the big revelations stop. And hopefully because you've kind of figured out these big revelations of like, I don't want to be in pain anymore. And then you're just working on nuance where it's like these little pieces that come up where it's like, oh man, this is why I'm feeling pain now. And again, it's just feedback and information. And so for me, I've committed to myself and like, I'm on this journey to continue to become the best version of myself possible. And that kind of leads us to where we are today.
I love that. I used to get trapped into that conversation of pain too, where, I would prevent myself from doing anything because I'm in this pain state and it's only going to get worse. Then I got to the point where I wouldn't even want to talk about that because I feel like I'm bothering people. But then I got to the point where it's like, no, I need to just move past this. Mm-hmm. And that's where connection and community
correct
really comes into play.
And I was going to say, to me, it's not to say you don't speak about it. Mm-hmm. I'm a verbal processor. It's really important that I speak about these things. But when I speak about them, I speak about them to heal. So I'll speak about what I'm experiencing for myself, but I want to come to my friends vulnerably and just say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing right now. But I invite my friends to challenge me that if they've heard the same story 2, 3, 4, 5 times, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, are we going to just be stuck in this story or are we going to shift and we're going to change? And so community, like when we look at like why community is so important, I say, if you want to find someone and see how weird you can get, be by yourself for a couple months. Be by yourself, remove yourself from society.
Yeah.
Remove yourself from society entirely, go move off grid and that type of stuff. And after a year, be around people and you're gonna be like, things got kind of weird. And so human beings are our mirrors. And they are our mirrors as far, and I kind of look at like this, like, do I enjoy some things of the world, like good food, art, a roof over my head, a safe car, this sauna. If I enjoy these things in life, then I'm a member of society. Because oftentimes people look at this and they go like, screw society, I don't want to be a part of it. And I'm just like, it's like, what part don't you want to be a part of? Because this is how we relate with the rest of the world. I think there's something super innate. Like when I look at, like when I wake up in the morning and I look at like 2 of my fundamental beliefs, like almost more core than anything else, it is that every human being should have a daily sense of purpose and a deep sense of belonging. So if you find a human being and they're having a problem, and you say to them, do you feel like you have like a daily sense of purpose? And the answer is yes. And you say, do you have a deep sense of belonging, that you just know that in this life and where you are and with your friends, that you belong there? If someone says yes to both of those things, they usually don't want for much more. And there really isn't much on that horizon. So for me, it's been this piece of like, well, what can I do to cultivate that in my life? Because if you break it down that simply, it doesn't seem that far out of reach for someone to feel that they belong in the world they're in and for them to have a daily sense of purpose. And so that's really been my, one of my core fundamental beliefs that I just focus on and how I navigate the world.
At what stage of your life did you start to really focus on community and building community and then, bringing other people in to enhance community?
Well, so first off, I gotta give a shout out to my mom. The woman who I had such a hard time with, because literally she is
full circle moment, right?
You can take her anywhere. Like I'm like, it's always fun when you have someone that's like a +1 that you're like, I can drop her in any room, in any situation, and she's gonna be great and people are gonna enjoy her. And that literally is my mom. And so as a kid growing up, I got to see how she would mend and how she would be the glue of different people and different things, even if I was frustrated with her. And so I think I'm trying to think of what. For me, when I look at like where community took the center stage, it's interesting. So I don't know if we want to dive down this tangent, we can. But there's a author. His name's Michael Singer, and he has multiple books. But one of his most famous books is called The Untethered Soul. And another one's called The Surrender Experiment. And the preface of it is that we have different voices in our heads. As human beings, it's not like it's like there's one voice. An example would be we have our ego, which lives here. We have our carnal or our body's voice. And then we have our connection with intuition, our connection with source, our connection with our, and I call it my soul's voice. And they all say sometimes, they all have different voices. And I'll give you an example. Our ego is very audible. And that's what we're born into. That's how society works. Every building that was built, every road that was paved, the ego created. An ego says, I'm gonna set a goal. I'm gonna finish a marathon. Egos finish marathons. Egos do all this. And egos, and I look at this, my ego at this point is pretty pleasant. It's pretty nice. It's very useful. Such a powerful tool. Body's voice. And I say that your body's voice is very quiet typically. If you think like a volume knob, it's like a 3 out of 10. Ego, like out of the box, it's like a 7, 8, 9 out of 10. But my body's voice is pretty quiet unless I'm hurt. So imagine how quiet your body is until you stub your toe. And then how loud does my body get? In that moment, whatever my ego saying, it doesn't matter. I'm holding my toe. Yep. Volume went up.
Yep.
So it's hurt, horny, or hungry. The 3 H's, hurt, horny, hungry. Those are so if you get hungry, you look at the voice gets loud again. You see something, you're just like, oh my gosh, who is that? Horny, again, very loud again. We might look at something and be like, what happened? What did I just do? Because I was hurt, hungry, or horny.
Yeah.
Well, it got louder than the ego. You're used to the ego driving. Well, we all know we've had these moments where our soul's voice was talking, our internal knowing, our connection to source, where it's like this thing of like, have you ever had something in your life where you're like, I knew it, I just didn't listen to myself. Well, that's because the soul's voice, the volume's at a 3 and it stays at a 3. It doesn't become a 4, 5, or 6. And so that's why meditation is a thing. That's why getting still is a thing, because what you're doing is because out of the box, the ego's at a 7. If I want to hear what my soul is saying, I need the ego to be a 2. I need the body to be a 2. And so at the end of the day, I need to make things quieter so I can start listening to what is the universe telling me.
It's a great way to frame up meditation and how it just quiets down the outside world so that you can hear yourself and hear your soul.
Mm-hmm. So when I did that, then my soul started talking and it started telling me things, and it was interesting because and what it said is it was kind of like the old movie Field of Dreams, where it was like build it and they will come. Yeah. Where it was like the cornfield started talking to me, and it was like community is really important, and you should take time and energy to help foster community because it's a lost art. And I'm like sitting here being like, my ego was like, don't, like this is a thankless job, like this is not something you should do. But I looked at this and I was like, well, I'm surrendering to what my soul is telling me. And I'm just at this point. So earlier in my life, I had a lot of business success, and the ego did that. And it was kind of like at this inflection point in my life where it was like, if I continue doing what I'm doing from an ego side of things, it's like what changes in my life is how big of a house I live in, the car I drive, and if I'm flying private or commercial. And I was like, the trade-in cost for this, where I'm like I'm gonna continue working 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week so that I can fly in a private jet. Or I can just...
By yourself.
Sure, correct. Yeah, right. Not with community. I mean, because the whole thing is I want to be Mr. Success. Yeah. And you know what? If that's your path, great. But for me, I look at this and I go, it was kind of like, is that it? It's like, is that it? Is that it? Like for me, I'm like, is my job now just to continue to make more money and have more success? So I was, for whatever reason, I felt this call of being like, well, it seems like there's some things in the world I don't get. I'm in the entrepreneurial world where it's just very simple. Go make more money, crush it, it's all good. Run a good business, have good culture, cool. But there's this whole hippy-dippy world out here where it seemed like people were finding, in the hippy-dippy world, it's called, you're either country club matrix or you're woke and broke. And so what I saw all these people being woke and broke. Some dude goes and takes ayahuasca that was running this business, and then he woke up and now he's effectively a broke hippie in Bali, lost his family, but then he's like, I've never been happier. And so that's what, and you see this my background was the tech space, all tech entrepreneurs. We all know the tech entrepreneur that literally did this. And then you're looking at this being like, but I like my country club membership. I like my steak dinners. Like, I don't want to lose my family. I don't know what to do. So I went on this whole path to be like, well, I don't want to disavow the matrix. I don't want to disavow money. I want to continue to work with it. But I effectively made this choice that said, my next frontier is to listen to what my soul is telling me. And so I went all in. I said, I'm going to surrender to this experience where I'm going to let my soul's voice lead me. And it was interesting because I can tell you, you're going to mess up when you do that. I stopped developing my soul. So when a little kid comes out, like my daughter Willow, her soul is still driving. It is. But what happens typically is we get to a certain age, and for me it was probably around 7, 8, where effectively I was taught, listen to your ego. That soul, like put that voice away. That soul's voice is telling me things are wrong. And they're like, nope, be a good student, be a good whatever else. This is what a good Christian does. This is what a good student does. This is what a good son does. And so my ego kept developing. So by the time I was in my mid-20s, my ego, if I like look at like, development, I had PhDs living up here. I had multiple PhDs. I could go and create whatever I wanted. My soul's voice was still at a 7-year-old. And so I woke up and I was like, the next frontier is to age up my soul. I didn't know this at the time. I didn't know what I was doing. I was going to listen to my soul's voice. And so my soul's voice has the wisdom of a 7-year-old, the decision-making of a 7-year-old. But my bank account and my power in life was that of a very successful, powerful person. So do you think I messed up? Absolutely. I did. I hurt people. And so that's why we look at this like awakening that people go through. And it's like, I have compassion, but for me, there was no one else around me that was really doing this stuff. So I was kind of a lone ranger, and I can tell you I succeeded and I screwed up a lot. Thankfully succeeded more than I screwed up, but I learned, and that 7-year-old became an 8-year-old, 8-year-old became a 10-year-old, became a 13-year-old. It's like, I look at right now, I feel like my soul is in its late 20s. And it feels really good. I feel like wise enough that I'm like, I feel like I got this, But it didn't happen overnight. But one of the messages, tracing this whole thing all the way back, is that community kept on being the forefront, where it's like, this is the answer for me, is to help foster and cultivate community. And as I sat with it, it was like, it was one of these things of like, well, what do I want community to be around? And to me, when I look at, especially when we're living in the world of artificial intelligence and all this other type of stuff, where it's like, if you're finding your worth based on the fact that you are smart, if you're finding your worth based on the fact that you produce things, which is most of the world, very soon isn't going to matter, like at all. Like if I base my worth on the fact that I produced something, very soon it's not going to matter. And that's going to cause major existential crisis. And I don't know whether my soul was leading me in this right path, because I'm really thankful that it landed here. But it's like, my belief is that you fast forward 15 years from now, the only thing of value you can produce, and I don't use the word only very often, but I'm just going to say it just to like really zing it. The only thing of value in 15 years from now you can produce is your art, is your signature. The fact that getting sweaty with Leddy, not spready, but getting sweaty with Leddy is because this is your art, and you're inviting people into your art. And AI cannot recreate that with the exact same flavor. And so for me, whether this is home building, whether this is coaching someone, whether this is, in my world, financial management, it's great and all, computers can do a better job, but they can't do it the way I do it, right? And so for me, it's like this piece of like, okay, so I'm gonna have a community. Why not have the community be focused around creation of art and appreciation of art? Because that's where I feel like there's gonna be appreciation. So I literally started putting myself out there to just be like a big fan of art, and finding other people who were also big fans of art, that appreciated a fine dinner, that appreciated a good live musician, that appreciated all this other type of stuff. And so it was like, the theory was, if I could find a group of people that liked creating art and then being willing to appreciate art, that might be a cool experiment to run. And bear in mind, this was a big experiment. I still consider it to this day to be an experiment. To come into this place of being like, okay, I'm going to be in community. I now have a vision around community, and then I get to invite people into community. Yeah, and so that's what got us to the point of probably about 5-6 years ago, where it was like, okay, like now we have something, and it's got some legs, and it's been a pretty wild ride ever since, and it's been very worthwhile. So.
Wow. Yeah. Not just for you, but for so many other people, right? And I'm one of those people as well. I've been able to benefit from these just amazing, like-minded humans coming together to share art in the form of experiencing to others while providing theirs. And it's a thing of beauty, and it's empowering, it's evolving, it's everything. Because if you're just operating life in a silo, you're not using the mirror that is the other person to look through, whether it's a mirror to see yourself, or whether it's a piece of glass to see through and see yourself, beyond in the distance off on the horizon, doing the authentic you, right?
Totally.
And I know this first and foremost, that when I went into my deepest depression, that was a time period where I needed to step away and go and face myself and be alone. But as I understood the challenges that I had dealt with and how they're going to be okay, and I'm going to be okay off in the distance, I immediately thrust myself back into community, back into my friends, back into a teamwork setting, creating a business where I'm working with my friends as a team, creating another business where I'm working with my friends as a team. And it was that sense of community that I needed. That's what got me over that depressive hump. And knowing that, and then being able to recognize when that opportunity comes in your life where there's community out there for you, like that is, you got to take advantage of that. You need to evolve through that, move through that identity that has been a state of comfort for a period of time, get out of that comfort zone and see what life can do when you take the training wheels off.
No, totally. I think it's interesting when you, like you said, like when you're stuck in depression, it's when we look at like the difference between, it's interesting how the mind works when you look at anxiety versus depression. And when you look at this, the brain can barely tell a difference between excitement and anxiety. But when we look at like where anxiety, so usually you don't just wake up depressed one day, it's usually anxiety that's stuck. Like that can't move. It can't move. And so when we get in depression, so as you said, like you got into community, it helped you get unstuck, helped you get in progression. And so that's what, and I remember because there were moments in my life where I'm like, I literally remember when I went to that same therapist, that same, I'm sitting in the room with a bunch of 6-year-olds in the waiting room.
Which, let me just take a pause moment and just visualize that.
Yeah.
The little kids are playing and then Karl's just sitting there.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, and I'm still wearing my button-up shirt at that point.
Yeah.
There's all these toys in the room.
Yeah.
And I said to John, I go, John, I'm tired of being sad, man. And I was like, can I just get some meds so I don't feel sad? And he looks at me and he goes, do you want to change? And I'm just like, yes, but I don't want what medicine you're about to give to me. And he's like, well, I'm going to give you some medicine. And he goes, if you really want to change, because he goes, medicine's great. If you need it at the time, he's like, if you need it, if you can't get unstuck without having some antidepressant meds, he's like, please take them because it helps end the roller coaster. The roller coaster is too big and it's too small. But he goes, the issue for most people is that they turn to meds until things normalize and they actually didn't change. He's like, let the pain be your medicine. And I was just like, I'm like, that's not what I want. He's like, no, he's like, I'm going to say this again. He's like, let it sink. And he goes, let the pain be your medicine. He goes, when you feel the pain, that's your signal to do the work. And it helped pull me out of depression because it was one of those things where it was like the second I felt painful, he gave me some tools and some resources to be able to pull myself. I was like, look, if I want to be a person who's here to heal myself, I got to get over myself. And if I was powerless to it, which sometimes you take the meds, because if you've got the wherewithal to set rules for yourself, I'm feeling really sad. And it's like, oh, here's my cue. Ding, the bell goes off. Now I need to go for a walk. Now I need to go for a meditation. Now I need to go get a lift in, whatever else. Now I'm building, that ended up being my medicine. And then I didn't have, and I might find myself at a point in my life where I need meds in the future. I might.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened since.
That's awesome.
And I feel good about that.
I always like to say, action kills anxiety. And if you are feeling anxiety, you got to go out and take some action, whether it's physical, whether it's spiritual, emotional, mental work. Don't sit in it. Don't let it fester. Don't let it grow. It will establish roots and it will be hard to pull out of the ground. So take that action. Yeah. You ready to take some action in the form of a cold plunge?
Absolutely.
All right. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
All right.
What's this called?
I know. It's a pleasant surprise. Every time someone comes in here, they think it's probably going to be like 60 degrees. No. This is like low 50s. It is a cold plunge. Oh yeah.
Oh, this feels good.
Right?
It does feel good.
Wow. I know.
They don't heat this at all.
No, they don't heat this at all. Matter of fact, they actually might cool this thing.
Real.
I know. Yeah.
Like, how is it this cold?
It's the largest, most glorious cold plunge in Austin. So if you're a wellness buff, head to the Residence Inn by Marriott. It's going to be southeast portion of Austin here. Pretty good.
This is good. This is nice.
Look at the back of my neck. Okay. We don't need to be heroes, but this is nice, right?
Yeah, this is nice.
All right. Let's go back and warm up. Nothing like a little contrast therapy to start your afternoon. Never ceases to amaze me, one, how good a cold plunge feels, but two, cold plunging in this pool over here, nobody thinks it's as cold as it's going to be.
Yeah.
So it's just
good, though.
It's a literal breath of fresh air when the realization kicks into the body, like, oh my God, this is not a pool, this is a cold plunge. Mm-hmm. So that was nice. Yeah. I'm glad we got to share that.
It is. And I mean, and I'm sure people who are listening to this already know that, like, you sauna and cold plunge, like for me, I end on the cold plunge always because I feel so much better afterwards.
Yeah, it's a jump start of the day.
It is. It totally is. So
cool. So Karl, you've been a cultivator of community for some time now. What tell the viewers what community means to you, and then maybe provide a little roadmap for how one would jumpstart said community for themselves.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I look at like what does community mean? And again, if we like trace it back even a little bit further, it's that deep sense of belonging, right? So we look at this again, a human being. If you're sitting here and it's like, if you feel like you have a really deep sense of belonging, you just belong in everywhere you are in life. So we think of like most childhood trauma happens because in school you felt singled out, in something else you felt singled out, you didn't feel included. That's where a lot of this, like, I'm not in the tribe. And so it's this interesting, when you actually look at it, you're like, oh shit, like that actually is what when I look at my experience growing up, is that I didn't feel like I belonged. And so for me, it's like, well, community, it's like you're in community when you feel like you have a deep sense of belonging. If you don't feel like you have a deep sense of belonging, there might be something missing, right? And I kind of, when you go to a gathering, I always ask myself, do the people here, and is the vibe found or searching? 99% of the world is searching. So when you're there, they're like, well, so if I'm here, I'm going to search over here, I'm going to search over there. Like, you're at a party where there's a dance floor or whatever else, and like the dance floor's not going, and everybody's kind of talking to each other and looking around because they're like wondering where the vibe is. For me, I was saying the vibe's right here. Like, at the end of the day, I get to curate this. And so for me, it's like, okay, again, instead of searching, it's like found. Like, we're already all found. If we're sitting here, like today in this sauna right here, we're found. There's nowhere else to be than here. And so from a aspect of belonging, from a community side of things, to me, community means people you do life with. So I look at this, and oftentimes we look at what does acquaintances mean versus friends versus close friends. And I remember looking at this, because we live in the world of social media where you look at this and like, well, I have 500 followers and this other person might have 10,000, this other person might have 1 million. And it's like, well, they must have things figured out, It's like, and I can tell you right now, they like, everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time, and they still have the same concerns. Someone like in my wealth management practice, most of my clients are people who have pretty big followings, and that's just based on how the practice I built over many years. That, semi-famous people refer me to other semi-famous people, and then it just kind of continues. And so it's like I get a front row seat to see what's happening behind the scenes on that stuff.
Right.
And I can tell you, everybody's dealing with the same stuff where they want to feel like they belong. That being said, though, and this is what was really helpful for me, human beings are tribal. Like, we're tribal beings. And so if we look at what does it mean to belong, the human brain can only be relevant with about 150 people max. And we're not talking about minimum, we're talking about maximum at any one given time. You can know thousands of people, I can know the names of thousands of people, but to actually be relevant in someone's life, max is about 150, and that's maximum. And most people will be like, those are my friends. From a definition side of things, I would challenge you to say those are your acquaintances.
Yeah.
Those are people that you're acquainted with. 150, max, right? So you start looking at this, you're like, wait, so like my key to like the maximum amount of people that I could actually even cultivate in a community is about 150. Friends is max about 30, and friends would be some people that like you could literally just pick up the phone and they expect your phone call. They expect it. They expect a text. It's not like this, the 150 is like you shoot someone a text, like, oh, it's cool to hear from him. I haven't heard from him in a while, Oh, cool, this person gave me a call. I haven't heard from him in a while. 30 is about the max, maybe 40, but it's about 30 is the max of people that's like when you text or call, it's kind of expected. Like they're like, oh, cool, and that's what I would consider to be friends. Close friends is 3 to 5. Like in close, and 3 to 5 is like, look, you're doing life with these people. Like they are current in what is going on in your life. And these are maximums. These aren't mins, these are max. So when I look at this, I'm like, wait, my key to like happiness, my key to feeling fulfilled in life and belonging is literally max 150 people, really 30, really 5. Then it makes it so it's a lot more tangible. I don't need to make something because like when people host a party, it's like the goal is that we're gonna get 500 people there. Well, cool, you're not gonna be relevant with most of them. So for me, it was like this piece of like, this seems more doable. So if I create a vision, which is like, I want to have a community of people around me and invite them to things, it becomes a lot more tangible. And so I like hosting events and I like eating food. I like going to live music. And so these things too. Correct. Hence we end up hanging out with each other. And so I was like, well, why don't I just start inviting some people to come to, whether it be a show, so whether it be a concert, whether it be a DJ show. The other thing too is if you just go to things, like there's this song, I'm gonna butcher it. I'm not even gonna remember it right now. But the point being is, it's like if you want to find the people, instead of searching, do the things you love. Just do the things you love and find other people who are also doing the things you love. And then, how did you meet my brother? Where?
Oh yeah,
At?
I gotta thank Leo and Dance Agenda right there.
Correct.
That's like the intent, the huge community builder in my world. Once we started doing events with Leo at Back Channel, all of a sudden my life was more enriched because it was just this culmination of amazing people coming together for a shared experience that is just to enjoy life. And now I get to do life with all those people.
Absolutely. And I can tell you, I wish every city had a Dance Agenda in it, because for me, it was like this thing where when I went to my first Dance Agenda event, I'm like, oh, these are my people.
Yep.
They're into my kind of weird, like dancing, letting the music move you and all this other stuff, and connecting with other people and being kind and being uplifting and creating great experiences. I also feel like at some point in time, you realize as adults, we make the rules. Sometimes I remember when I started upgrading my experiences. My brother we would go to a concert and my brother would bring bubble guns, bring fans to make it more pleasant. Correct. Totally. Yeah. And so when we look at these things where it was like, wait, and I almost remember being like, we're not supposed to have this much fun. And then I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, we're going to get in trouble. Because when you're a kid, we're going to get in trouble because we're having so much fun. And I'm like, wait, at some point in time, we make the rules.
Yeah.
We make the rules that we can have this much fun. And so what happened was I found these areas where I was like, okay, there's people that we like some of the same things. Like maybe I should be friends with these people. And from a community side of things, it was like, okay, let's create this community. And what I would say is you figure out something, again, this is the appreciation of art. And I like putting words to things where I'm like, look, at the end of the day, how good are you at appreciating other people's art? As a challenge. How good are you at appreciating other people's art? And it's like, how would you rate yourself on this? And look at this, I feel the world is a better place when we can be super good at appreciating people's art. So it became a really easy way for us to be able to say, okay, well, we're going to be, and effectively, when you look at what is art, it doesn't mean necessarily a painting. Art can be just how you show up. How this podcast is run is a version of art. And so for me, it's like I did this training, a really good training, challenging, called ALA. And one of the things that they teach is grab the mic. There's more than enough room on this planet. And I grew up Midwest like you did. And you look at this and it's like, Midwest is like this, be Midwest nice, don't take up too much space because you don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable or whatever else. I'm sitting here being like, there is so much space in this world. There's so much room for saunas like these. This parking lot has room for 5 more. If it's like,
we can have it. I know there might be a future sauna event here, residents in.
There could be. There's more, and so it's like this whole thing of grab the microphone. Marianne Williamson has this quote that says, who are you? And it says, who are you to be fabulous, brilliant, talented? And it's like, who are you not to be? And it's like, as I let my light shine, I subconsciously give others permission to do the same. I'll say that, as I let my light shine, I subconsciously give others permission to do the same. And so for me, I'm like, instead of me sitting here being like, we should all be great together, I'm just going to be the greatest version of myself, which is the most vibrant, most artistic version of myself, because that's the only thing that can provide a value, and let's see who's attracted to it.
Be the beacon of light, that lighthouse that shows the way, and people will find that.
Yeah. And so what happens naturally is then, you magnetize people to you. You magnetize people to you, and then it's like, well, now what are we going to do? And it's like, well, why don't we just, because this is like things, let's be intentional. And so for me, it's like when I look at the evolution where it was like, it's easy. When I look at community, it was like, let's host 1 thing a year. Let's host 4 things a year. Let's host 1 thing a month. So therefore, it's just like we at least have something. And I now have my group of people where I'm like, when I invite you and every single time we get together, we have a win. So I'm not starting with it being like, we're doing this community thing and it's going to be X, Y, Z. It's like, no, start small and then regroup afterwards. Again, regroup afterwards. And I can tell you, when you look at having community, usually what you need to do is identify who are your key stakeholders. Like the people that I know, when I call them and ask them to come, they're coming. And it's going to be a ripple effect where it's like they've got their 3 or 4 friends that they're going to bring. And so for me, when I looked at this and I was like, well, who are the 3 or 4 people I want to pour time and energy into? Because I know that that's going to continue to radiate out. And so that was like this thing. I host an event. I know these 4 people are going to say yes. I know that they're going to bring some friends. And then it becomes a lot easier because the burden's not all on me to keep the thing going. you iterate enough on this, and you start learning. And so for me, it got to the point where I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna do something on a weekly basis. So I have a farm right outside Madison, Wisconsin. And on Wednesday, and it was like this thing, I have this big workshop that I use for woodworking, metalworking, all that type. You can build or fix pretty much anything you want. And I was like, well, why don't we just have a Wednesday hang where effectively we call it Wednesday night shop night. The ironic part is 5% of it's doing stuff in the shop. 95% of it is kids running around, bonfires, dinner. But it was like every Wednesday, it's just my house is open. And everybody brings things, everybody cleans up. So at the end of the day, I would say it's like, I'll provide the space. I was like, you guys bring the magic. And so every person gets to bring their own magic, where it's like, and what's cool is you empower people, where then the burden doesn't lie on you. It doesn't rest on you to be able to, because like when I host, if I had to actually go out of my way to host, I'd be tired. And so eventually got to the point it was like, we're doing weekly gatherings. Well, you're doing weekly gatherings, then that goes into who are you doing life with?
Yeah.
And because it's just an open door, so we know that it's like, if people want to come on Wednesday, they can come on Wednesday. And for me, fortunately, I have this big farm that I've cultivated that is the size of a neighborhood. So there's plenty of room for people to go do their thing. But it doesn't have to be at your home. It could be at a park that you do. It could be wherever else. And we take a break during the winter. So for me, I also feel, and I actually learned this from one of the churches I went to growing up, where they do a Bible study and they don't do it year round, because if they do it year round, they find out that it fizzles. So at some point in time, you do something and people are like, it'll be here next week. It'll be here next week. So for me, I was like, hype is a thing. Intention is a thing. A viewpoint is a thing. So I'm like, you know what? The weather sucks in Wisconsin during the winter, so we're taking a break during the winter.
Yeah.
But from like March-ish, April until November, it's on. And what happens is I ask people, because I say, hey, I'm going to end this. And it's funny, this last year, people said, no, let's not, we don't want to end this. Let's keep it going. And I'm like, you just got to trust me. End it. And it's one of those things, because then what happens in the spring is I go, who wants to re-up?
Yeah, it's rejuvenated.
And when you invite people, you say, who wants to do this again? And people are like, I'm in. Then that's also their commitment to say, on Wednesdays, I'm going to be there.
Yeah. And
so I found that like literally having things for a period of time, having on a consistent basis, taking a break to help build anticipation.
Condense to enhance, I like to say.
And what I will tell you, and I'll share this last bit, and then I'll stop talking for a second.
What do you mean? We got around 5, 6, 7, and 8. Though.
Yeah. Is that people will forget almost instantaneously how important it is to be a part of community. People forget almost instantaneously. I can't tell you how many times we host an event. So when I hosted an event and it was quarterly, everybody every single time would be like, oh my gosh, like where has this been? And so I would tell you, if you ever have that moment, oh my gosh, where has this been? Remember what it was like to be there and recreate it and iterate on that. Because at the end of the day, you're finding something that has fulfillment of you, and it's always within reach. We live in a world that's so isolated. And the whole thing is if we look at the reason why community is a lost art, is because as of 100 years ago, we needed each other. So if you had weird Uncle Larry you didn't really like being around, if you cast Larry out of the tribe, Larry died. So you figured out how to make Uncle Larry be a part of this thing, because we don't want Uncle Larry to die. We figure this out and everything else. We live in this world where, because of how much wealth we have, literally our homes become a form of a prison. And the thing is, we don't have to have anything else. There's a book, Sebastian Junger, called Tribe by Sebastian Junger. And it talks about how important being a part of a tribe is. And when you actually I talked with him, and he said to me, I'm like, well, where do you live? And he chooses to live in a Hispanic part of the Bronx, because he's like, literally in this world that we live in, the second, he said Hispanic culture still keeps community, and there's a couple other, but Hispanic culture primarily goes in like literally lower income areas, they still do community. And so he goes, for me, it was just easier just to plug into a place where they haven't lost this art. But for me, it was like, okay, we've lost this art, because now what happens is, Josh, if you annoy me, I just cut you out. This person just cut you out. At this point, cut you out. And so we literally on this washing machine cycle of like kind of like not the deep level of community. So I was like, we need to break this. So then guess what, Josh, if you're annoying me, we get to figure this out. Annoying me, we get to figure this out. And maybe we do and maybe we don't, but I'm going to learn the skills on how to deal with conflict, how to hold space. And that's where community, you look at some people go, screw it. Like, this is what happens. I'm going to build this community and everything else. And then guess what? Someone sleeps with someone else or gets in a relationship and it breaks up, and then it causes discourse, and I don't know how to handle this discourse. Of the many things I learned, one is you got to run it like a business. So I'm an entrepreneur, and guess what? Sometimes you look at this and you got to hire people, and sometimes you got to fire people. And for me, when I look at this with community, it was like, I look at this, if I'm saying, hey, I'm cultivating community, and this is the part that people might look at this and go, ugh. If you don't manage it successfully, it will fizzle or blow up. It will. And the first 2 iterations of community that I helped foster, you spend all this time and energy, and then something happens. Whether this is an energy vampire, that literally the second they know that this person's showing up, everybody else is like, I'm not even going because they're going to suck the energy out of the room. And people don't say this. It happens subconsciously.
Yeah.
Or you look at this and something happened where there was a rift in the community and there's no repair attempt, or you offer a repair attempt and the person's not willing to do it. My question to someone is if you found out cancer's in your body, how long you let it stay in your body for? How long?
Yeah, I'm going to get that shit out right away.
You want to get it out. And so you look at this, if someone's going to be cancerous, it's like, look, we are here, there's one team. I always think it's interesting we live in this world where, because effectively the news and politics and stuff, there's different sides. There's one team, and we can either get on the same team, and if you don't want to get on the same team, you got to go. And I can tell you, there's a lot of people, not a lot, it's been a handful over the years where it was like, look, we got to be on the same team or we got to be done. And the answer was done, and it was that painful? Yes. Did it suck? Yes. And as a leader of community, do I look at this and some people, it's like, we know this. If you're going to have a community of any more than a couple people, at some point in time, there might be a decision that needs to be made that's not popular.
Yeah.
But the choice is, don't make the decision, your community will fizzle or blow up. Make the decision and protect the community, and that is a part of the way it's been forever.
Yeah.
Help people get in line, and if they don't want to be in line, they can go somewhere else, because guess what? We don't need to be friends. At the end of the day, to have happiness, to have belonging, is max 150 people, really 30. So guess what? If it's not working for us, there's 8 billion people on the planet. There's not like we're running out here. So it's just like that piece of just realizing, like, find your tribe and continue to work it.
Find your tribe
and run it like a business.
Yes.
Like, run it like a business. So
yeah. Oh,
indeed.
I love that, Karl. I think our viewers got a pretty good understanding of community today, and I would challenge any of you, if you're curious about building community, send a message through this episode.
Maybe we someday do a follow-up. So if you like, because I can tell you this, there's an art to community building.
Yeah.
I mean, I could literally talk for hours about
we will
the art of it.
definitely
So
have a 2.0
Yeah.
in this, because yes, community is ever evolving. Our community stands where it's at right now, but it will change. It will evolve. It will grow. It will become better. It may have challenges too. It's going to be all of that. But the beautiful thing about it is that we're doing it together.
we are indeed.
Oh, Karl, thank you so much for sitting on the bench with us here today.
Of course.
Do you have any final parting words for anybody?
Oh, let's see. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
Hopefully you took something from today, because this is just us sharing like how we learn in life. And this is one of those things. How we learn in life is based on other people. We are reflections and we are mirrors. If someone annoys you, it's likely because they're showing you some things about yourself. And the other piece is just community is worth it, even in the midst of the fact that you have to, because when we're facing adversity, literally it's just things you need to face within yourself.
Yeah.
And so it is worth it. And listen to your intuition. When something doesn't feel right to you, when it doesn't feel right, listen to that. And if cancer needs to be cut from the body, and the cancer could be you.
Yeah.
I've had to cut myself from the body a few times. And I have to get over myself. So it's just like, be willing to do that. And it is worth it on the other side.
Yeah.
It is beautiful on the other side.
Yeah.
Healing is here, right?
Healing is here, yes. Don't let that ego dictate your life. Follow your heart, follow community, and all will be well.
Indeed.
Until next time, everybody, stay sweaty out there.